Hey there, Ride the Car Guy here, and today let's get the engine and transmission out of the Xterra. Today is a big day. We don't have a ton of work to do to actually prep this to get it out. We just have the propeller shafts, the transmission mount, the engine mounts, and then hooking up a crane and pulling it out. So hopefully this week's video won't be a half an hour like last week's video. Before we get started, one quick thing, I want to ask for your help. I scroll around online on Reddit and the Nissan forums, and everyone seems to have a name for their car. So I thought it'd be really cool if we had the community name my Xterra. So down below, please comment and let me know what you think the name of our Xterra should be. One quick thing to keep in mind when you're giving suggestions is that I plan on going with a full blacked out look on this Xterra. Black bumper, black headlights, black grille, dark tint, everything black, so just keep that in mind. We'll pick some fun names out of the comments below, and then we'll do a poll on the community tab, and then you all can vote on what the name of the Xterra should be. All right, enough talk about names. Let's go pull off some propeller shafts. I'm gonna start with the front propeller shaft. That's only gonna be 4 14mm bolts and nut combos on the front and rear. But before we do that, I'm gonna pull off that cross member that sits kind of right in front of the bell housing or the torque converter housing on the transmission. And that's just gonna be 4 17mm bolts. And that's not only going to allow us to access the front of the front propeller shaft, but it's also gonna allow us to tilt the transmission down when we go to pull it out the front. So let's pop that off and then we'll get to the propeller shaft. You know, I thought those nuts were welded in. Apparently they are not. Not bad, other than being completely coated in sludge. Alrighty, for our front propeller shaft, we have, well, very dramatic lighting, but we also have 14mm bolts with little 14mm nuts on the back of them, and we just need to pop those off. If I recall, you should be able to just throw this on here, give it the old 1-2 with the hammer. There we go. And then once they're loose, they come out pretty easily. Next one here, the same story. Make sure you break your light. Now to get to the other two, instead of trying to get your hands up there and get on top of that, I'm just gonna lift up one side and rotate the tire. So if this is an open diff, this should rotate without issue once it's off the ground. Awesome, it does. So we just rotate it until the other two are on the bottom. Excellent. Let's put them right there. Drop it back down to lock it in place, and then just take out the other two bolts. All right, now that we're on our last one, I want to do one of two things. First of all, this has already been marked. This is white here with some white paint pen here. I didn't do this, but I'm grateful that it was done. You want to mark these on the front and rear to make sure they get installed the way that they were taken out. Secondly, I'm going to leave this last one in. I broke it loose, and I could back it out with my fingers, but I'm going to leave it this way. So it's suspended and it's not resting on the transmission cross member. So let's go to the back, take the 4 out of there, and then this one will be ready to pop out when I want to remove it. We have effectively the same story in the rear, except it'll actually be a little bit easier. Seems like there's a lot more space back here. And again, this one was marked. See the white marks here? So very handy. Maybe I should stop doing this right over top of my light, huh? All right, I didn't realize it, but I was actually rotating the front on that bolt up there. So I put a second bolt back in loosely to get that to work. So just keep that in mind. All right, these are proving to be pretty tough. I'm not necessarily saying you should do what I'm about to do, but let's give this a try. Did it work? Hey, it worked. The old foot method works again. My new method for removing these is I'm actually gonna just break them all loose first, and then let them sit like that, and then go through and pull them off. I think that's a good idea. It just feels good, you know? These are way harder than the ones up front. Just one more, I'm gonna rotate like we did before, lift the tire, rotate this. All right, so let me check. We have all 4 off, yes. So I'm gonna pop these out, and then I'm actually gonna pull all 4 out on this side, because it can just rest right here. So that should come out, maybe with some light provocation here. There it goes. Awesome. And now let's go pull the fronts out and we're good. Pull that out, and now There we go. Just gonna gently lift it down. Oh, not so gently. And here is our front propeller shaft. Now let's go take out the rear. Now the rear one's gonna be even easier because in the front, in the transfer case, it just slides in and of course slides out. And then the rear, I can get it with an impact. I have a little, I have a small extension with the wobble head and that'll fit on there just fine. Some people say you shouldn't use impact on driveline components, but they're not the boss of me. So do this at your own risk. I'm gonna hit it with impact and pop them off. Just hit the ones you can reach first, and then we'll do the same rotate trick like we did earlier. And if it isn't marked, make sure you mark it on the side here so you put it on the same way it came off. There you have it. Pull all these out and then just slide it out of the transfer case. There we go. There's usually some oil in here, so leave it up as you drag it out, and then we'll just pour it out here. There we go. Just a little less mess to deal with. In fact, let's take this opportunity to empty our transfer case. You know, I've never personally spilled any transmission fluid or transfer case fluid, so I'm lowering it as I'm pushing it back. And look what I did. I forgot to drain some of my transmission fluid. But I would imagine that it's a huge mess, so we're gonna be tilting this transmission back when we pull the engine out. So if you tilt it back and the back of the transfer case is wide open because we took the drive shaft out, well, it's just gonna pour fluid out. Not that I've experienced that. So grab your H10, it's the big, basically a giant Allen wrench. And right below where we just took the drive shaft out, you're gonna see a little drain plug. Get your bit in there, break it loose. There we go. Let it drain. It's a weird color, huh? Looks like chocolate milk. I wiped off the magnet there. There was quite a bit of stuff on it, but not horrendous. This is good enough, so I'm just gonna throw this back in. All right, I'm officially getting old. After getting up from that last trip under the Xterra, I tweaked my arm, and now I'm in immense pain. So I'm gonna take a break for the rest of the day. Tomorrow we're gonna tackle the transmission cross member, which is just an absolute joy, and then the motor mounts on the front, and then we're gonna yank this thing. All right, my dudes, we're back. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm just now getting out here. I found pretty much every excuse to not come out and do this job. I was out running chores, working in the yard, doing anything but this. I even stood in front of it and just stared at the engine for like, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes. But here we are. We got to get it over with. We got to get this transmission cross member out. I've already done this a couple times. That's why I have the wisdom to hate it. And I already moved, you might notice a severe lack of vehicles back here. I moved the Titans out. My driveway is now done. I'm so freaking excited. I can actually get vehicles on it. So Titans are out there. I pushed this back so we made room for the engine hoist, and we're gonna have space to push this back and forth as much as we need. Under here, all kinds of bolts. So we have 2 over here, 2 on the other side, 2 over here, 2 on the other side, and then 3 for the transmission mount. All of them are 17 millimeter. I'm just gonna quickly get through them with an impact. Now we have a couple things that, to me, look pretty promising. And one of them is the fact that the side of this is all like wavy and bent to shit. Based on my experience pulling these out, what that means to me is that this has been out before. And if it's been out before, it's gonna be a lot easier to take out the second time. Or I suppose it means that they tried to take it out and couldn't, and then just damaged it for no reason. If I recall, with the Xterra, there's enough space, especially with the exhaust knot there, to get a big 2x4 and get it on either a control arm or the body. But either way, we'll try a little bit of prying, see how that goes. I'm trying to remember how I had it. I think it was like this. Yeah, and then I put a jack down there. That's what I did. All right, let's give that a try. There we go. Yeah, all right. Yeah, there we go. I remember this. My 2x4 is quite bent at the moment, and I can hear it creaking. Just hope I'm not doing damage up there, but we'll see. Yeah, let's go. Come on, this ain't All right, I'm gonna let off, and I'm gonna go do the other side a little bit. And if that goes well, I'm gonna put a jack underneath the transmission. So when it does pop, we're not obviously just dropping all that. Yeah, not ready to go yet. There it goes. Let's freaking go, dude. That looks really sketchy, huh? Yes. All right, we're hitting the lower control arm and lifting the entire vehicle. All right, oh, it just occurred to me, I can do it out here. Yeah. With my shoulder the way that it currently feels, I'd really like to avoid hammering if I can get away with it. So we're just gonna keep on going. Yeah. Come on, baby. Let's go! Yes! This thing had to have come out before. There's no way it was that easy after never coming out. So the other side's gonna be a lot easier. I'm gonna get this underneath the transmission as to get the pressure off of it, and then we'll go knock out the other side. Just a little wiggle did it. And that, one cross member taken out. All I needed was a little mechanical advantage. Right, Dad? I actually did that in a single take. And it took me 15 minutes and 13 seconds to get that out. That was insane. First time I did it took me like 2.5 hours over the course of 2 days. Second time, even longer on the Titan because it was so freaking tight. It's literally in the name. But this has been an absolute dream. So if you look underneath, we have a nearly clear shot now. We have the differential in the way. A couple people have told me to take that out, but I'm just gonna go ahead and not do that and hope that it works out. So we have the rear of the transmission supported on the jack, like you saw. Really all we need to do now is find a place to mount the engine hoist to the engine, pull off our motor mounts, and then this sucker can come out. But before we do that, I'm gonna do a couple things. I'm gonna pull the front bumper off. It should just be 4 really large bolts, I don't know, 19-ish. And then that should come right off the front, so that way we have even less obstruction. And then for me, I'm actually gonna take some stuff off the engine, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But for now, let's take off the bumper. I should have known better. It's, of course, 17s. There's gonna be 2 up top that you can see, and then 2 in a little hole down here. Whoop, little access port. And, oh, look at this. Remember I said it may have been a little front end? That's definitely bent in. Interesting. Might explain it. Ear protection because this frame stuff is really loud. And I'm gonna drop the bottom ones first. It's so easy, there's no reason you shouldn't do it. Now for me, everything on this engine, I'm gonna do one of 3 things. I'm either gonna recycle it for scrap steel/aluminum. I'm going to sell it if it's a nice part and it's actually usable. Or 3, keep it for myself as a spare on my Xterra. So at this point, could I just throw some chains around this and pull it out? Absolutely, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna pull off a couple things, especially the intake manifold, and just a couple things around the side that chains might sit on or might break when I pull it out. I have plenty of videos where I take off the exhaust manifold, so I'm not really gonna show that. It's just, I think it's 10 bolts right at the top, and at this point, you can literally just hover over it now. It's super nice, and just grab all of the bolts off and then pull it off. Just make sure you disconnect all of your coolant lines for the throttle actuator, and then any of the vacuum lines behind it, and it'll come out. On that note, actually, why don't we just start strapping it up? So I'm gonna grab my leveler, rest this back here. I'm gonna get my engine hoist. Get it in place, and then that way I know how much chain I need. This is a 2-ton, and I have it set at the 1-ton setting, and I did that so we have more room to lift up. And in fact, like last time, I'm going to pull this chain out, and I'm gonna put it into the boom, so that way we're linked down here instead of up here. Because can you even see that? No, you can't. I'm pulling the chain up. You'll see it. So I'm just gonna grab one of the little I forgot what you call these things, this thing. And I'm gonna link the weight distribution tool at the top of this up here. I don't wanna sacrifice all this space here. This I'll just kind of throw up here like that. All right, looks sloppy, guess who cares? I can lower this a little bit and get all that space back. Now, as far as connecting the engine to the load leveler, we're gonna do 2 up front. We're gonna have one go this right here, one go on the other side. On the rears, honestly, I'm probably just gonna hit the exhaust manifold. There's 2 points where the engine was actually engineered to have like 2 lift points, and one is in the front right of the engine and sort of halfway up the left side. Now, this is kind of interesting because there's already a bracket in here that sort of looks like an engine slinger. So I'm for sure gonna use it, but I'm assuming yours isn't gonna have this. So there's the 2 bolts, you can just use 8 by 1.25 bolt and then get them you know, long enough to fit in here, probably at least 3 inches, maybe 2.5, and use these holes. So on the right side here, here's what appears to be a slinger. I'm gonna hook my clamp through the chain, and I'm just gonna guide the chain down with the connector on it. There we go. I'm gonna rotate that, awesome, and then just shove it through there. All right, that one's on. I'm just gonna leave the chain up on the top of the engine, and then we're gonna go do the other side. On this side, if you look real close, you can see them. They're kind of between your first and second coil pack on this side. They're right here. For the left side, I'm gonna hook it up here first. So basically hook it on this guy and get it up here. I'm actually gonna determine the length of the chain by what link I put it in on the side of the engine, not up here. All right, so flop this over. I'm thinking, I may change this. I want it like this here, so the load leveler is not gonna hit the cowl. So I'm thinking I'm gonna want a decent amount of chain up front. So let me slide this back and find that hole, there it is. So I think I'm gonna go with that link. Then I'm grabbing my 8x1.25. I'm just gonna put it in there. I'm gonna use the front of the 2 holes, only because we're gonna be mounting the rear chain pretty close to this one. So I put a washer on it just to make sure. I mean, it's not gonna come through the link anyways, but I just wanted to be sure that it, you know, be sure that it didn't. So that's looking pretty good. Now that I have this one on, I'm gonna determine the length on this side and get this one put on. All right, that actually looks good. All B. The rear's gonna be a little trickier, only because I don't have a ton of chain. I have this. I wrapped it around the manifold on this side, on the right side, because it's the way tighter side. And on this one, I ended up just putting it in the rear hole for the lift point. Obviously, if they're this close, tilting it back and forth, my load lever isn't gonna do as much as I probably want it to, but the transmission, really, we're gonna be tilting it mostly this way. So the transmission's gonna do a lot of the work as far as pulling it all down, and we should be good to go. What I will probably do is take this and move it back. Now that I see it in here, I feel like I can get away with putting it back here, or at least one notch back, just to try to get more back and forth. All right, hopefully that does it for us. I'm putting just the slightest bit of tension on it because we are going to have to take the motor mounts out pretty soon. A few more things I want to do. I'm going to switch to a transmission jack underneath. I currently have the regular jack on it. And then I'm going to take that jack and use it to take the front wheels off. And then we're going to actually sort of like make it kneel, so to speak. All right, for the motor mounts, I'm gonna try something that might not work out. But the way that these are designed is they have, of course, the part that mounts to the block, you have 4 bolts there, and it comes down and it creates like a C shape, sort of like a sandwich. And it sandwiches in a bracket with a bushing in it. And then that bracket is just screwed into the frame. So if we take out that bracket, theoretically, we should be able to lift this up and get it over those little frame pieces, little brackets in the frame, that, and then we can, you know, pull the rest out. That's what I'm hoping is the case. So let's try that. These are 17s, and I just have a bunch of impact extensions and a wobble head on the end, and that's a 17 millimeter. So I'm going to slide it down behind our wonderful heat shield, well, I guess technically in front of, and then just slide it onto the bolt here, just like that. All right, that looks good. And then I'm going to grab my impact and back it out. Oh, that was crazy easy. See if that slides right out. Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that the rear is not gonna be that easy because of this magnificent little heat shield. That actually feels like I have it on there. I am pleasantly surprised. So we're gonna set these aside, put them in a little baggie, and go do the much easier side. It's downright cake on this side compared. The right side of these engines is way tighter than the left. In fact, it's a clear and straight shot right down to both of them. Now I'm going to lift this a little bit and see if I was completely wrong about the brackets. It's been about a year at least since I took the Titan apart. They are designed the same way. Yep, just broke free. Well, I'll be damned, look at that. God dang, let's just go for it. Well, I can already tell you with this bracket on, the steering arm is going to be in the way. And Duncan actually warned me about this just yesterday, but we're just going to pop that off. We're going to have to. So here's the steering linkage, and then there's the end of the bracket back here. So we would have to lift it like almost like up and back to get it out. This honestly is going to be probably easier. Yeah, it's probably easier than taking the engine mount off. So I'm going to take this off. It's probably a 12. You should mark it, you know, the way that it came off. So I'm going to do that. in D to 12. There we go. That was actually not bad at all. Look at all the space that cleared up. All right, back to it. So I'm gonna clear the area, get some of the lighting out of here. And then this is kind of just gonna be, you know, handle stuff as it happens. I'm gonna lower the rear of the transmission as needed or raise it as needed, and then just slowly work this thing out. Here goes nothing, as they say. Woo! Shouldn't be using the highest setting on that. I think that's doing it. Is that free now? Oh, I knew it. I knew I'd forget a ground. This little guy was holding on for dear life. Yikes. Well, so there's a ground there. Pop that off. Gonna be a 10 millimeter. Pretty strong little thing. I'm surprised I didn't rip that right off. Just put the screw back. There we go. Now it's nice and free. Start pulling it out a little bit. Oh yeah. I'm just checking kind of like down the side of things that, like this for instance, my fuel line, that I disconnected. Well, you know, maybe I didn't, but I wanna make sure that I disconnected it. And then also making sure that nothing is still connected. Did that make sense? I don't know. But it looks like everything's good now. So I'm gonna start backing it out. We're hitting the diff now. So I'm gonna lift the transmission a little bit more if it'll go, because we're starting to hit that expensive and annoying antifreeze line. I feel like we gotta be getting close on the oil pan, right? Yeah, we're getting real close on the oil pan. Maybe I need to lower the transmission now a little bit. I'm just sort of playing this game back and forth because I can see the oil pan now almost over the differential. It's like that far. Yep, there it goes. So now it's over. That's a huge milestone. There you go. Duncan, I should have listened to you, bro. I should have taken that out. But now that it is, lift it just a smidge more. There we go. Start pulling. Come on. There we go. Getting caught on the arm here. Get that out. Check the rear. Everything's looking great. This, of course, the heat shield is causing problems. That's literally all they do. They do nothing else. Keep pulling. Well, hot damn. And I'm just doing one last check. Sort of slowly pulling it out. Probably need more height. It's getting caught on something over here. Oh, just the power steering reservoir bracket. No big deal. Okay. Well, this is going pretty well. So now what I'm going to do is get it all the way until it starts hitting the differential. And then I'm going to lift the rear of the transmission one more time. Oh yeah, plenty of space now. So we're going to keep pulling. Hopefully the transmission jack will slide with it. Oh, is it really? Wow, it actually is. All right, very cool. Still have plenty of clearance between the transmission and the differential. So I'm just gonna keep on sliding. So now the transfer case is hitting the differential. I gotta keep going higher on the transmission. There's space between the transmission tunnel and the transmission. Yes. All right, probably hitting again, right? Yes, we are. So now, well, it kind of popped off the transmission mount, or transmission jack, and is now sitting on the differential. I'm not that worried about it. It's kind of static at the moment. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I might get in there and maybe grab it and push back or something. Oh, I got it. It's sitting on the differential, so I'm going to pull the transmission jack out of the bottom and then move to the front, and then now lift on the pan. That's what I'll do. Oh, please. All right, I made a mistake and didn't give myself enough room, so I'm actually gonna have to turn, like rotate the whole assembly and get it out diagonally. So annoying. Cracks in the concrete and I can't roll the transmission jack up. It's infuriating. I'm gonna have to lift it with like a pry bar or something. There we go, yes! Had to get a little creative, but this motherfucker's out. In only 175 simple steps, you too can take out a Nissan engine and transmission. I'm incredibly pleased at the progress of this project. We are officially done with phase 1, remove the Xterra engine and transmission. We might be calling an audible because the closer we get to actually pulling the engine out of the Titan, the more attached I feel to it. So I might be calling up Duncan and getting quotes for him just sending me a VK56 and transmission. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Speaking of Duncan, he made this project possible by supplying me this wonderful Xterra. So check out the description below for information on Nissan Parts Puller, where you can get all kinds of lightly used OEM parts. Also, if you're not subscribed yet, what the heck are you doing? Get in here. Not only are we doing a huge project like this, but I have 7 years of videos on the Xterra and hopefully 7 years of videos to come. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.